Trade rumors are now swirling around the New York Islanders as their lottery win threw a huge curveball at both the NHL and the franchise, as now the Islanders do have to reconsider a lot of their decisions when it comes to a couple top players and whether or not they keep them or trade them. In this video, we're going to be talking about all that and whether or not it makes sense for the New York Islanders to move Noah Dobson. We talked about this topic a couple times on this channel, but now that the Islanders have a first overall pick, the dynamic has definitely changed, and there is definitely more of an argument where now the Islanders can afford to move on from Noah Dobson. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Islanders Digest, but before we do that, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you're an Islander fan and you want more Islanders content. As you've seen, this has been an absolutely crazy offseason so far. The Islanders moving all the way up to first overall. They're going to get a new GM in the next, perhaps later today, perhaps tomorrow. So much is happening for the New York Islanders. You're not going to want to miss the coverage. So be sure to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date and really discuss Islanders trade rumors such as this. And the big rumor today is Noah Dobson. Now, there are plenty of Islanders trade rumors floating around right now. Bunch of rumors about whether or not they can trade down with the pick, which we're definitely going to talk about at some point. I personally think that's a terrible idea. But right now, I really want to focus on whether or not it makes sense for the Islanders to trade Noah Dobson. And for context, for this video, while it is not a guarantee that the Islanders are going to pick Scheifele, there are different candidates available, such as Michael Misa, although Scheifele is unanimously the top prospect available. Still, you could make the argument for Scheifele. I know Islander fans do want Hagens. Realistically, Hagens is not a number one overall pick. Although I will say, speaking that we're talking about Noah Dobson trade rumors, there have been a lot of discussions that Noah Dobson would be a piece the Islanders could move if they want to move back into the top 5 of the draft, because realistically, Hagens can go as late as 6, so this is definitely something to keep in mind as well. But right now, we're going to really focus on whether or not it even makes sense to trade Noah Dobson. Scheifele is a defenseman. If the Islanders pick Mathew Scheifele, all of a sudden, they have an opportunity to move Noah Dobson. Noah Dobson being a top defenseman, a type of defenseman where even though he struggled this season, is very hard to find. And as a result, that made it so that it was, in my opinion, a terrible decision for the Islanders to move Dobson. Now that they have the opportunity to pick Scheifele, assuming in this video they're going to pick Scheifele, this really changes everything for the New York Islanders. And I will say this will definitely take a little leverage off of Noah Dobson's camp, which is only going to make this whole discussion even more interesting. Just straight up, now the Islanders have a chance to pick a true number one defenseman. They don't have to take as many risks when it comes to betting on Noah Dobson and hoping he becomes a number one defenseman, because it really felt like Noah Dobson was the Islanders' only hope at getting a defenseman. Stefan Roser has tweeted talking about the discussion, and granted, this is all just talk. Really, everything when it comes to the Islanders trade rumors is just rumors at this point. There's really no leaks or official information because we don't even know who the GM of the team who's going to be making these decisions is. So none of this is coming from the Islanders. The only focus with the Islanders right now, today, is selecting their next GM, as we're likely to talk about later today with either an update or revealing who the GM is, depending on how things move. This seems to be moving very quickly. But getting back on track here, Stefan Roger was talking about Noah Dobson and really speculating, like one of the big speculations is whether Noah Dobson can be moved for other picks and hypothetical trades, potentially moving back to 4 or 5. Those are the two spots where it seems like the Islanders could potentially use Noah Dobson in a package to get a pick to bring back home hero James Hagens, the Islanders, because as I said in my previous video, talking about the Islanders' opportunity to pick first overall, highly recommend you check that out. It does not make sense for the Islanders to pick Hagens first overall, but Islander fans are still excited about this, and this is really where some of these rumors are coming from. And the opportunity is there, as we're going to talk about. Noah Dobson is no longer, in my opinion, untouchable for the Islanders. A lot of Islander fans would be upset with me saying he was untouchable. He was, in my opinion. Noah Dobson is the only defenseman on the Islanders who can put up points at the level he does, and he really added such a level of dynamics to the offense, an offense that was really dead in the water. And frankly, part of Noah Dobson's production this season is just that players like Mathew Barzal were out. There really was not much to work with when it came to the New York Islanders. Still, Noah Dobson, who's drafted 12th overall, is no longer untouchable, in my opinion. You definitely can trade him, especially if you're picking Mathew Scheifele, which we'll talk about in 1 second. The production was concerning this year, and that is really why you consider this. Do want to note, perhaps it's not a great idea to trade Dobson in an off year, although it seems like with the interest that there was when the Islanders first shopped Noah Dobson, I use quotation marks there, because I don't think this was necessarily a shopping situation earlier in the season. We'll never really know because Lou is so tight-lipped, but it seemed like this was less of a shopping situation, but more of the Islanders inquiring in what it would cost to get Pettersson, and Noah Dobson was the piece they were comfortable moving the other way in a trade where they would acquire Pettersson, which in my opinion would have been a mistake acquiring Pettersson from the Vancouver Canucks, but regardless, the Islanders did consider trading Noah Dobson this season, which is really fanning the rumors on whether or not the Islanders are going to look to move on from him this offseason and really making us talk about whether or not it makes sense. And it's interesting. Even as I'm making this video, I'm kind of wavering back and forth. One thing you have to keep in mind is selecting Mathew Scheifele does not mean you have to get rid of Noah Dobson. It makes it an opportunity because Mathew Scheifele is going to be a number one defenseman. If the Islanders pick Mathew Scheifele, they are confident he is their franchise defenseman of the future. And that could take pressure off Noah Dobson, but it also means they no longer need to hold on to Noah Dobson. You got to keep in mind, Noah Dobson is a right-handed defenseman. Scheifele is a left-handed defenseman, meaning the Islanders actually could hold on to both. First of all, you need 6 defensemen anyway, but they could hold on to them both and potentially have a true top pairing in the NHL, something that is so hard to find and really the hardest part of building a team, and that would be huge for the New York Islanders, and definitely something to keep in mind too. Now, on the other token, you have to also keep in mind what it's going to cost to keep Noah Dobson, which is really what is fanning all these trade rumors. If Noah Dobson had another year on his contract, or he was willing to sign a 6-year contract worth $6 million per year, there would be very little Noah Dobson trade talk. Even though he had a disappointing season, defensemen that put up points are exciting, and last year Noah Dobson put up 70 points, this year 40. In general, he is good for 50 points. You wouldn't be talking about trading Noah Dobson, especially a 25-year-old defenseman. But Noah Dobson had a really rough year last year. And the going rate for defensemen at his age, putting up the points that he did, is a minimum $8 million, as Stefan Rosner has tweeted here. And this is true. I mean, we talked about the contract for Chikrin and Neil Pionk. These contracts were absolutely ridiculous for defensemen who, in my opinion, aren't necessarily significantly better than Noah Dobson. I would actually argue that Noah Dobson is a better defenseman than Neil Pionk, which really makes this conversation interesting. And I think what it's going to come down to, honestly, is the new GM is going to have to come in and decide whether or not they think Noah Dobson is a first pair defenseman. We're no longer talking franchise defenseman, especially if Scheifele is being picked. First of all, if Scheifele is not the Islanders selection, then you cannot move on from Noah Dobson. You need to hold on to Noah Dobson if you're not picking another potential top defenseman. But the GM has to come in and decide, well, is what Noah Dobson's potential worth $8 million for the next 8 years or something around that number? If they're comfortable signing Noah Dobson long term, then they should. And if they shouldn't, they should trade him for the best possible package. The one decision they should not do, and this has changed since the last time we talked about it, I no longer think a bridge deal makes sense, especially now that you're bringing in Scheifele. You run the risk of them having an expiring contract at the same time. Also, there's a potential that now that Schaefer's coming in, that Noah Dobson could have even more production because the pressure will, especially in his walk year, could potentially be off and allow him to really have a great season and walk him right into free agency. That's not the goal. So simply, it should be sign Noah Dobson if you believe he is a number one, not a franchise, but a top pairing defenseman. If not, you trade him for the best package available. Whether that be a 5th round pick if he's packaged with a later first, or perhaps a player who can instantly provide offense for the New York Islanders, which in my opinion is definitely what you should. I understand the Hagens hype. I don't think the Islanders should trade Dobson just to bring Hagens home. That's more of a fan service than something that necessarily makes sense. And it's a fun point. You have a lot of tweets, a bunch of teams excited, like this Habs account being excited about Noah Dobson potentially being available, showing that Noah Dobson does has value, even though he had a rough season. And I really like this tweet by Joe Marina explaining that there will be there definitely will be trades this offseason for the New York Islanders. Change has to happen, especially with the new GM. And if you pick a defenseman in Mathew Scheifele, it is highly likely and almost necessary for the Islanders to move out a defenseman. I mean, they have so many defensemen locked up under term, and especially with the opportunity to bring in Scheifele to be one of those top guys, you don't need some of these guys on more expensive contracts. But as Joe Marino points out, why would you move Dobson when you move Pelech or Pulock? First of all, Pelech and Pulock both play the left side, which is the side that Scheifele plays. So that just makes more sense. And while Pulock, I think at this point is not really movable, Pelech, while he does have I think a 16-team no trade list, he can get moved and frankly could get a good return. So regardless on if Noah Dobson does get traded, if assuming the Islanders bring in Scheifele, definitely expect to see a massive trade if the Islanders do select Mathew Scheifele, which I think is what's going to happen. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Do you even want the Islanders to draft Mathew Scheifele? And regardless, do you want the Islanders to trade Noah Dobson? Or if you want them to sign him, let me know how much you think is a fair offer for Noah Dobson. Love to know your thoughts in the comments. Always love discussing hockey with you guys in the comments. As always, my name is Patrick Nilan. This is Islanders Digest. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Let's go, Islanders.